Many people mistakenly equate Bitcoin with fraudulent schemes, not understanding that it is a decentralized open source technology. Critics often claim Bitcoin is worthless or a scam or a Ponzi scheme because it's not backed by a physical asset. Many people believe Bitcoin transactions are untraceable, but the blockchain is actually a public digital ledger where all transactions are recorded and can be traced. And of course, I've saved the best for last. Myth number 11. The worst misconception is my financial advisor is knowledgeable about Bitcoin. Well, let me tell you, I'm Matthew Fraser and this is Crypto Collective. After making millions with Amazon and e-commerce, I realized that if I was starting again today, crypto would be my first choice. I'm here to help you take your first steps and build real wealth. Ready to set yourself up for life? Let's go. Hey guys, welcome to Crypto Collective. My name is Matthew Fraser, and in today's episode, we're going to be covering the most common cryptocurrency misconceptions. And this will be great, especially if you are a beginner, but perhaps also if you've been in the space for a number of years and there's some things that have been sort of lingering around that you sort of thought, is that true or is that not true? I'm going to be myth busting them right here in this episode. Let's get to it. Myth number 1, Bitcoin is completely anonymous. Now, many people believe Bitcoin transactions are untraceable, but the blockchain is actually a public digital ledger where all transactions are recorded and can be traced. Now, many years ago, the funny thing was that politicians and the like used to say that Bitcoin is only for bad actors and criminals and drug dealers and what have you. But that was true. A lot of people were saying that. But what happened was the criminals realized that, hang on a second, Bitcoin is not anonymous, and these police and FBI and CIA were able to track these guys down through the blockchain. Took a long time to do, but ultimately it proved that using Bitcoin was not good if you want to stay anonymous. Myth number 2, Bitcoin is only used for illegal activities. Now, while Bitcoin has been used for illicit purposes, the vast majority of transactions are legitimate, involving trading, investing, and retail purchases. Now, speaking of retail purchases, only just this year, Ferrari, amongst other companies, now accepts Bitcoin. So isn't that perfect? Now, when you need to go and buy your Ferrari, you can just head straight to the dealer and hand over some Bitcoin. Now, myth number 3. Bitcoin has no real value. Now, of course, critics often claim Bitcoin is worthless or a scam or a Ponzi scheme because it's not backed by a physical asset. Now, it's ignoring its value as a decentralized, scarce, and secure currency. Now, this is said because Bitcoin must be converted to a government-backed currency to be used, such as a fiat currency like Australian dollars or US dollars, even in countries where it is recognized as legal tender. The argument here is that because Bitcoin is convertible, it doesn't have any underlying value. But as we know, Bitcoin has a cap of 21 million. It's fungible, immutable, secure, desirable, and ethical, and that's what makes Bitcoin the asset that it is today. Myth number 4, Bitcoin is a scam or a Ponzi scheme. Well, of course, many people mistakenly equate Bitcoin with fraudulent schemes, not understanding that it is a decentralized open source technology. Now, of course, in the past, there have been scams and Ponzi schemes, but it's not because of Bitcoin. There's bad actors that are outside Bitcoin who are trying to scam you out of your money, either to give them your hard-earned dollars or so that you send them Bitcoin. But Bitcoin itself is not the scam. There's people outside of Bitcoin that are scamming. Myth number 5, Bitcoin is controlled by a single entity or government. Well, first of all, Bitcoin is a decentralized asset, meaning that no one controls it. No government, no company, no exchange, no one. So there's also other reasons why people believe that Bitcoin is controlled by a single entity or government. And that is that some people believe that Satoshi Nakamoto, the inventor of Bitcoin, mined a significant amount of Bitcoin early on, around 1 million Bitcoin, and that this stash could be used to control the Bitcoin network. Now, the mystery around Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, remains unknown, leading to conspiracies that a government corporation or private corporation or a single entity might have created and controls Bitcoin. Now, speculation often points to organizations like the CIA, NSA, or major tech corporations. Another reason, other entities like Bitcoin mining pools. A large portion of Bitcoin mining is concentrated in very large mining pools. Coincidentally, I just happen to have bought into Bitcoin mining pools myself. Now, this can create the perception that these pools or entities behind them could control Bitcoin. Hey, just quickly, if you're ready to dive deeper into crypto and Bitcoin and build real wealth, join my free crypto collective community. It's where I share exclusive insights and strategies and live discussions to help you succeed. Whether you're a beginner or scaling your portfolio, click on the link in the description and join us today. Now back to the episode. Myth number 6, Bitcoin is environmentally catastrophic. Now, what they say, first of all, high energy consumption. Now, Bitcoin mining uses vast amounts of electricity to run the Bitcoin mining rigs. Now, it's often compared to energy usage of entire countries. They also say that it has a high dependency on fossil fuels. Now, in some regions, mining relies on coal and other polluting energy sources. They also say it has a large carbon footprint because mining contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, exacerbating other environmental factors. Sensationalism. Now, media often exaggerates Bitcoin's impact without comparing it to traditional industries. Now, the counter arguments for all of that is this. Bitcoin miners know they need cheap energy, and right now the cheapest form of energy is renewable energy, if you can get it. So many miners now use hydro, wind, or solar energy, with estimates suggesting up to 60% of Bitcoin is mining from renewable energy sources. Comparative impact. Industries like gold mining and banking also consume significant energy, but rarely face the same scrutiny. Incentivizing renewable investment. Now, Bitcoin encourages innovation in sustainable energy sources and grid optimization. So for all of these reasons, environmental concerns about the energy consumption of Bitcoin mining is completely out the window. And I'm going to give you a case example right now. There's a situation in Norway where an energy mining warehouse utilizes hydrogen energy, and all of the heat that's generated from that warehouse actually gets pumped into a local building to use for its heating. And the owner of that building buys the heating from the Bitcoin mining warehouse because it comes much cheaper than what they could get it off from the natural grid. So this is another great example of sustainable energy practices within the Bitcoin mining industry. Myth number 7, and I love this one. You have to buy a whole Bitcoin. Well, of course, people think they can't afford a Bitcoin because of its high price. And the price right now is $100,000 or about 150,000+ Australian dollars. Now, this is not realizing they can buy fractions of a Bitcoin as small as 0.000000001 Bitcoin. And that's called a Satoshi. There's 100 million Satoshis in one whole Bitcoin. So when you're thinking about stacking Bitcoin, perhaps that's such a great number because it's $100,000 per coin. Break it down into, you want to start stacking sats. Okay, so you got 100 million in one Bitcoin. Start stacking sats now. Or as the phrase goes, buy, stack, and chill. Myth number 8. Bitcoin is too complicated for the average person. Yes, although it can seem intimidating, many user-friendly platforms and resources make Bitcoin accessible to anyone willing to learn. Now, I will say from the outset, with everything new, it does seem daunting. Can you remember, or are you old enough to remember when the internet first was established and you had to start using email? That back then was very daunting, but now everybody uses it and we don't even think twice about it. The same thing is going to happen with Bitcoin. Very soon into the future, everyone will use Bitcoin and we won't think twice about it. Myth number 9, Bitcoin is too volatile to be a viable investment. Well, yes, while Bitcoin's price fluctuates, many long-term investors focus on its growth potential rather than the short-term volatility. And remember, when we say volatile, we don't just mean volatile to the downside, we also mean volatile to the upside too. So you have to be in the asset to experience its upside. Never just wait for it to come down, because what if it never gets to that magic number that you're waiting for? Myth number 10. Bitcoin is dead or dying. Every time the price dips, critics declare Bitcoin is dead, ignoring its decade-plus track record and growing adoption worldwide. Now, according to Binance, Bitcoin has been pronounced dead 415 times. Now it's at $100,000. And you got to remember, over the past 4 years, Bitcoin has had an average compounding interest of 55%. Over the past decade, it's been over 60%. And right now, in the year of 2024, Bitcoin has had over a 100% increase. And of course, I've saved the best for last. Myth number 11. The worst misconception is my financial advisor is knowledgeable about Bitcoin. Well, let me tell you, in Australia, most financial advisors, accountants, and financial planners have no idea about Bitcoin whatsoever. And I would be very, very cautious about taking any advice or ideas from them. Now, just so you know, in Australia, financial advisors can't actually advise on Bitcoin because there's no regulatory framework by the government surrounding this asset. So don't even ask them for advice because they can't even give it to you. But if they happen to slip something in and you say, hey, should I invest in Bitcoin? And they say, oh, I wouldn't invest in that. It's a bit risky. It's a bit volatile. That's because they have no idea what they're talking about. But if you want to even push them harder, ask them, Mr. Financial Advisor, do you invest in Bitcoin? And if the answer is no, then I will be not taking advice from these guys whatsoever. So the takeaway with myth number 11 is do your own research. There's so much information now on YouTube, the internet, on Instagram, on TikTok, you name it. The information is there. Go and do your own research, discover more about the asset yourself so that you become knowledgeable about this asset, and then you can make the decision whether you should invest in it or not. So guys, as you can see, there are so many myths when it comes to Bitcoin, and you've really got to be careful about what things and information you listen to on the internet because there's so much misinformation out there. So guys, thank you so much for joining me on this episode. I really hope I've answered a lot of your questions regarding the misconceptions about Bitcoin. Now, if you want to know more information, you can jump into my free online community. It's called Crypto Collective. I'm happy to share with you about where to buy Bitcoin, how to buy Bitcoin, and how to create generational wealth for you and your family into the future. All right, look forward to seeing you there. Take care. Thanks for tuning in to Crypto Collective. If you've enjoyed this episode, the best way to show your support is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode. You can also find more of me at I'm Matthew Fraser on all social media platforms.